When was this taken?
1947.
And then who are the two men in the picture?
Ted Dietertz.
And the tall guy?
Fisher, Rolly Fisher.
So you had the shortest man and the tallest man on the force.
Yeah, that was a different kind of picture.
Okay. Do you want to state your full name?
Roland Keith Fisher.
Fisher. And what's your date of birth?
September 25, 1926.
And do you know that you're being recorded?
I had that impression.
Okay. Where were you born?
Orville, California. Orville being in the north central part, not too far from Chico. Many people know where Chico is, but Orville was in the valley.
And what was your family doing there at the time?
A lot of wheat was grown down. Wheat and rice, primarily rice.
Were your family engaged in farming, or what were they doing there?
No, my dad was a representative of the American American Automobile Association, and he traveled the north part of California. This was during the Depression, when money was tight for everyone, and he had the opportunity to come to Helena, Montana as a vice president of the Montana Automobile Association. And that association was associated with the Montana Chamber of Commerce and the Montana Highway Patrol. 1926 in Montana anyway, the Highway Patrol consisted of drivers driving 1926 Ford Coupes. They didn't carry sidearms in those days. They're primarily responsible for helping tourists going from here to there on whatever roads you might want to call them. And that's how the Montana Patrol did their work then.
So what year did you move up here? Was it 1926?
We moved up here in 1936.
36.
We came here 1 year after the earthquakes shook Helena pretty much apart. Because in those days, houses were built out of brick. When an earthquake hits, they're the first ones to come down, so Helena was really side apart, something of a pile of bricks. And that's how we were introduced to the wide open spaces, the hunting and the fishing, and it was all worth it.
So how old were you when you got here?
I must have been 9 or 10 years old.
And then is that when you first were introduced to the outdoors? Is when you were a kid?
Oh yes. Whatever we had to come and go with our thumbs. We hitchhiked.
When you went hunting?
When we were fishing.
Oh, I see.
When we wanted to fish, why the thumb would take us out to Clancy and the other way up the foot of the Bear Gulch over in the Clancy country. And the Canyon Ferry hadn't been formed yet. And as a result, we had a lot of good water to fish out there. A part of me goes along with the creation of Canyon Ferry Dam, because in I must have been 17, 18 years old. We were hunting ducks down there, we being two buddies. And I inadvertently stepped in front of one of the kids with a 12 gauge whose thumb slipped off of the receiver, the gun thumb, and it took a hole out on my side. I couldn't, I was lucky to be alive. One of the kids I was with had been in the Boy Scouts with me, and he had sense enough to stop the flow of blood and run for emergency help. We were about 20 miles out of Townsend, and so it took quite a while for them to get help. Being here is self-evident that I lived, but I was a lucky one to do it. He went to the Marine Corps, and he went through Okinawa and all of the hot spots. He came home and we used to kid each other who had the most lead in him, he or I. And a twist in that story is we went back to fishing and hunting like we did when we were kids. And when I became a smoke jumper, he said, I'm coming with you. Well, I got into smoke jumpers with a bad lung because I knew the doctor. We skied together. He was the smoke jumper doctor when we needed one. And because of our relationship on the ski slope, he says, I think you can do that. Well, he tried to get in, my friend tried to get into the smoke jumper with all of his wounds, and they wouldn't take him. I said, from now on, I'm going to tell people I was in the Air Corps, I was in the Air Corps, but nobody was shooting at me.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
well, who was the doctor that you skied with here in town?
Dr.
Was that Dr. Little?
Doctor, yes.
And didn't he jump too? Wasn't he a jumper?
He did. He jumped with us. He was also on the international team of skiers that would travel all over the world. He was a remarkable doctor.
Well, so let's go back to where. So you finished high school in Helena.
Yes.
And then, so when did you first get exposed to the Forest Service?
Oh, I got out of high school in '45, and my Forest Service days weren't until late '49, '50. And my relationship was informal with the Forest Service until I joined the Jumpers.
And what year did you join the Jumpers?
1946.
Okay.
So that was a year after I got out of, 1947. Because I just missed Mangul's 2 years. And many of those guys I had jumped with, the ones who perished. And always a tough spot. When I think of what happened out there and what might not have happened had they followed instructions from the jumper supervisor. But that's a story in itself, and everyone that lived in Montana knows about it.
Well, so you went jumping in 1947. So how did you get to the smoke jumpers right directly? How'd that work?
Well, I was in college in Bozeman, and one of the guys that was my buddy, unbeknownst to me, had a tie or a talking relationship with somebody in Missoula, and he joined the Jumpers for that summer. And so he says, why don't you come with me, Raleigh? I said, oh, I don't think I'd make it. I said, I've been banged up with some gunshot wounds. But one day when I came back to Helena, my doctor,
Little?
yeah, Bud Little. Bud was my family doctor. He delivered my first child after I was born, or after I was married. But I went to Bud, who had skied with me, and I said, Bud, what are chances of me getting into the Jumpers? he says, well, because I know you know what you can do, and because I'm the jumper doctor, I said, I think the itch gets you in. And we went, all of our training was Camp 9 Mile outside of